And we're live. What is going on, everybody? My name is Nikki Smokes, joined by Jay today. You were listening to the Smoke Show. Aloha Friday. Happy Friday. Jay, how we feeling today, brother?
Chilling, man. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful Friday. For me personally, I just left work as I'm going back to school. So that's a huge W for me right now. I have a good 3 weeks before school starts to kind of just chill out. So having a great time, honestly.
Big dubs. Big dubs. What'd you just get out of?
So I was working at a golf course doing like the turf management side of things. So just working on the course.
Well, sounds miserable. Well, up there
Yeah,
in
it's not
Toronto,
great.
it's probably not that bad, right? Is it hot up there in the
It's still
summertime?
hot. So like we're very seasonal. So right now it's still very, very hot. It's like not the middle of summer. It's nearing the end of summer, but still the summer. And then now we're gonna head into fall soon, and then we'll get into the winter, which obviously comes pretty quick now. Fall and spring have kind of dissipated. I'm not gonna lie,
Right.
recently, but yeah. So we're gonna get into the fall season now. It's still pretty hot though. Today was really bad, so that's just kind of how it is.
What happens during fall? Do you just hibernate and watch the Dolphins?
Fall is my favorite season. I actually kind of like the cold, but for me, it's perfect just because that's shorts and hoodie season, at least for us. So that's like my favorite time. So fall is like my favorite season ever. So it's like I get outside a little bit. You're playing basketball still. You're still out there playing outdoor hockey, at least for me. And then obviously once we get into the winter, then it's a little bit more hibernation in Dolphins football. But obviously Dolphins football for us is year round.
I gotta ask you because I was born and raised in South Florida. So when you say hoodies and shorts, what are we talking about? What's the temperature outside?
I don't even know what it would be in like I only know in Celsius. I
Oh,
wouldn't
and
even know what it would be in
no way. All
Fahrenheit.
right, wait. I'll pull
I
it
have
up on
no
Google.
clue.
All right, what is it Celsius? What is it
I would say
Celsius?
it's like 12, probably 12 to 13. That'd be fall weather in Toronto. Like that's like kind of what it
That's
is.
53 degrees Fahrenheit.
Something like that.
I
Yeah.
could get with a hoodie and I could get with hoodies and shorts in 53. I'd freeze a little bit, but I'd be all right. I'd be all right.
Yeah, maybe it's like 15. I'm a little bit more of a fan of the cold, but I love shorts and hoodie season. Like that's my time to shine, baby.
It's the best. The tailgates are the best too when it's like that. But have you watched that Mike McDaniel interview?
Who hasn't? Which Miami Dolphins fan has? And I think I got to it a little bit later just because again I was on my last few days of work, and I still watched it in its entirety. Obviously, I think everyone must have seen like the popular clips, but by the way, you guys should go watch the whole thing. Like it's incredible. The little insights you get from Mike McDaniel is crazy. He's so technical with the way he speaks, and we know if you watch, like he reads like sociology books, he's reading all this type of stuff. It's so interesting to see him kind of in more of a personable light, not a coaching light. But still,
Right.
man, it was crazy. You get so many thoughts. You honestly, it's pretty in depth, at least for a coach. I feel like for most NFL football coaches, we don't really get that many in depth conversations like that. So again, you should probably check that out. I'm sure we'll talk about it here, but it was a fantastic conversation.
You made a great point because that conversation was more personality and personal versus coach. And I feel like when we see Mike McDaniel on the podium and they're asking him football related questions, it's kind of like he's deflecting. And I feel like we've never got to hear his true genius. But in that interview, the way he conducted himself, the way he spoke, the way he answered his questions, I mean, so much detail. Usually coaches are very dry, 1 to 2 to 3 words max, but he was very thorough. He really lets you inside of his mind. So if you haven't watched all 49 minutes, you're missing out. And you have to wait, you have to watch to the very end. Because I want to ask you something. At the very, very end, the guy goes, so my wife, she barely ever says this. And she goes to me, she goes, who's that? So the interviewer goes, I know when she says that she thinks someone's good looking. And he's like, why? Do you think he's attractive? And she's like, well, he's sneaky good looking. Now, you were on the show last week, and I was talking to you. I was like, yo, McDaniel has that look on the sideline, So do you agree with that guy's wife's statement? Is he sneaky good looking?
The sneaky good looking part is so funny, and if you know what she's talking about, which is really funny that they added that part. I'm surprised that even made it in, especially with Mike McDaniel being a part of it. But that was like so funny. Sure. I mean, I'm not gonna get too deep into it. For me, I just think he looks good on the sideline. Like I said last time, he looks the part. I think it's kind of
Right.
weird that people thought he wouldn't, like, or people like were like putting that in question. It's like, oh, what will he look like on the sideline? Will he look like a puny nerd? It's like, who cares? First of all, who cares? He has the respect of all these guys around him. So really, who cares? But for me, honestly, he did look the part. It looked like he was involved. It looked like he was walking around. He's very collaborative with all the other coaches. And I'm not going to lie, you could tell who was the man on the sideline, at least for me. I thought it was pretty clear.
Right. And I think you made a great point. I think he has full control of this team, at least from outside looking in. And I think it's because of how he leads and how he coaches. Now, in that interview, he was talking about, I'm not the type of guy that's gonna be like, oh, what the fuck, you stupid idiot, blah, blah, and like rah, 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 rah. But instead, he's like, I'm gonna take him in the film room, I'm gonna show you. And he's like, look, your mistake here is fucking this guy up. That's why you need to do this. And I feel like it's a coaching style that we haven't had here ever. I think I don't even think you've seen it a lot in the NFL. Maybe besides a handful of coaches, maybe like a McVay or Kyle Shanahan, guys like that nature. But just listening to him and how he teaches and how he leads, I was a big fan of that. What'd you make of that?
Oh, I'm very excited. I think obviously this is an NFL show, but if you look at the NBA, it's getting a lot more player base in terms of you don't want the guys who are going to be the yellers and the screamers. You want the guys who can relate to the coach. The player coaches is obviously the
Right.
most notable. And I think that's what he fits right into. And honestly, it's like he almost takes it to another level because he talks about how he's getting more sleep because he wants to be able to be more personable, which is like who even thinks about that, first of all? I mean,
I was
obviously
gonna
he's
say
a
that's
coach, so
that
obviously
that had to
clearly
come from one of his sociology books because I couldn't even wrap my head around that.
he was talking about how, like, when he was the offensive coordinator and the run game coordinator, he could basically be the guy in the background who would be kind of just on the X's and O's, just a guy in the back who watches film and is developing game plans and how to exploit defenses. And he didn't really have to deal with running an actual football team, which I think it gets lost among people, where he's the one running the team in terms of he's dealing with all these characters and all these players and all that type of stuff. And he talks about in the interview, he talks about how he wanted to get more sleep because he needs to be more personable and approachable and more involved with these guys, and how he actually makes a big deal about caring and how you really have to care. It's not a facade you can put on. And he talks about how that's such a big part of coaching that I'm not sure he didn't know, but he didn't think it was as big of a deal as I think I think it's a big factor for him. And he even notes how on a lot of his teams, the better ones were the ones that were close in terms of how close they are as a team, in terms of like being friends with each other, being boys, and how the teams that he's coached on, the teams that were better are the ones that are more close. So I think it's so interesting the fact that he's taking that approach of being a real players coach, actually caring. You can tell how much he cares about this team and how much he cares and respects the job that he has. And he's almost honored to have that job, which who wouldn't be? Obviously, he takes big like pride in having that position, but it's not like egotistical. It's more of I have this opportunity, which he talks about, to take a team who hasn't made the playoffs or hasn't won a playoff game, in 22 years or whatever it is. And he has the opportunity to be this guy who can change that and be a guy who is a player's coach and runs the team how he sees fit, which I totally agree with. Just to answer your question, I know I've gone a big rant here, but to answer your question, I agree with it wholeheartedly, man. Like, it's incredible to see the flip in terms of, and I know I'm going to bring up Voldemort here, but bringing up Brian Flores, how he coached and his coaching philosophy, which, by the way, when you see him coaching, when you see him in the Bengals game running across the field, like, I like to see that part of it.
I was fired up. Flo had me sold when I saw that.
Exactly. Same for me. I was like, give him a 10-year extension, but then obviously you hear all of the worst things, but that fired me up. But then you see the change in philosophy in terms of being a player's coach more than a general. Obviously, he's coming from the Belichick system, which is kind of that general type leader, more of like a military style general, just to put it in like context. But again, I think it's incredible. I think it really will help Tua. He talks about how Tua was guarded. He talks about how he was a guy who he thought was done wrong by and how he really wanted to open up. He talks about the luau, and it just seems like he really cares about the players and how he thinks that if you really care about the players and get the players going and really connect with the players, that you can get the most out of them that way, which I think is the right way to go. And again, especially with this new day and age, the modern player, that's more, I think that's a better approach personally. That's just how I feel, at least right now. But again, who knows? Because Belichick still, he still had a team that's gone to the playoffs who's been winning. So I think there is a place for both types of coaches. But personally, after not having that type of coach for so long, it's a breath of fresh air for sure.
Right. And one thing I wanted to add, so you're talking about a team with camaraderie and truly caring about his players, and you mentioned Tua and the luau. I thought that was also very interesting, and I think McDaniel does a fantastic job of not saying, yeah, Brian Flores screwed Tua over, but he said he came in and he saw that there was scarring on Tua, and he believes that he wasn't really set up to succeed. And then you hear that, he was never really himself until, McDaniel went to the luau and he said, all I saw was a really quiet dude, almost as if you're meeting your girlfriend's parents for the first time, right? Like, hi, I'm Nick. Like you don't want to do anything out of line. You don't want to be too much or be you're just on your best behavior. And he said acting the way others want him to act. And then he
Exactly.
said all that changed when he saw Tua step up onto the stage and they're playing drums and he comes out and I think he's doing this Hawaiian dance and he's out there with his chest out. And McDaniel said, boom, that's it. He said, that's the Tua that I want on the football field. And I think we're starting to see that. You see Tua starting to talk more. He's more confident. The way he practices. Now, he's not that rah-rah, loudmouth leader, and I don't think he ever will be. That's not how he is. But you could tell that, one, he's finally being supported, that he's got a guy like Tyreek Hill gassing him up, guys like Jalen Waddle, a coach that goes out there, and what he literally said, he throws the most accurate, catchable ball that I've ever seen. So you add that on top of what Tyreek Hill said about him being the most accurate quarterback in the NFL, and whether it's true or not, it's just good for Tua's mind, in my opinion, because after years of, oh, I'm going to get replaced by Deshaun Watson. Oh, I'm going to get replaced by Tom Brady. You hear all this stuff about you being replaced and you're not good enough. You're not good enough. And then all of a sudden it starts to feel like my head coach believes in me. One of the best wide receivers in the NFL starts to believe in me. It's very contagious. And I think that's going to help his mindset off and on the field. And I think that's going to help translate to much better performance out of Tua. And before I pass that over to you, Orlando Hype, this Tua shirt comes from the Tua Foundation. Go on the website. You could find a shirt right there.
Okay, so for me, at least for my thoughts on it, again, you like you said, he saw him with his chest out at the Luo. He saw him kind of, being confident, that confident guy that I guess he hadn't seen before, which is obviously so great to see. And then just to kind of add my touch onto it or add to the question or whatever, I just think it's incredible to see. I know we've said this multiple times, like in the past. It's so nice to see Tua with that confidence with guys, even the defensive players, man. Javon Holland, who's picking him off, is even talking about how they're making each other better. And I feel like, just to put, I guess this is probably the best way to say it without getting too deep into it, is I feel like in this 2-month period, we've seen more confidence from not just Tua himself, but also the players and coaches' confidence in Tua than the entire Brian Flores era. Like the 3 years that we had Brian Flores, I thought we've seen way more confidence in Tua in these just 2 months, which obviously is tough because we haven't seen any games played yet, and hopefully we'll get to tomorrow. But we'll see what happens with that. But just so far, it just seems like the vibes are good. I was actually just talking to my dad. He's like, we'll see. My dad's like, he's a skeptic at this point. He's been crushed so many times by the Dolphins.
I don't
It's like
blame
game
him
over, guys.
though.
So
I mean,
exactly.
I've been heartbroken for 22 years. He probably grew up and saw Marino and never won a Super Bowl. So he's literally seen the Dolphins with the best quarterback in that era not win a Super Bowl. So trust me, you're allowed to be skeptic. I will never knock a Dolphins fan for being skeptic. But like you said, we haven't played a game yet, but we have been able to see these guys just be themselves. The way they speak on the podium, completely different. Tua's facial expressions and how he's dealing with the media, you could already see his demeanor's change. And his demeanor, that's gonna translate onto the football field. Now, I'm not saying because he's talking to the media, he's going to go out there and be better than Josh Allen overnight. I'm not saying that, but the way he's feeling going into a game is going to be at a much higher level than it's ever been.
And Tyreek Hill talked about how confidence is such a big part of football, which I agree with. It is such a huge part of football. If you don't think you can do it and you're not speaking into existence, honestly, you might not play as well as if you are confident. And by the way, confidence means you're prepared. By the way, if you're being confident, that means you're prepared, you're ready to go. So the only way to be confident is to be prepared. So when Tyreek says those things, it's like, obviously, whether again, like you said, it's true or not, that he's the most accurate quarterback in the entire NFL. I do think the confidence part is a big thing. And like you said, we want to see the confidence that Tua has when he's at the low. We want to see it on the field, like Mike McDaniel talks about in the interview. You want to see him bringing that confidence onto the field and making that into good quarterback play, as Mike McDaniel puts it. And I think we're on to for good things. Again, like we've said, we haven't seen a game yet, but there's a little bit more openness to the press conferences and all that type of stuff, like you said, which is, it gives me good vibes, like, because that's all you can really have right now. There's nothing more to it, to be honest. Like, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. And obviously, even preseason games, as much as they tell us, they still aren't the real games, obviously. So we'll see week one. I think week one's going to tell us a lot about how this team is going to go. So obviously we'll wait till we get there. But to me, the vibes are great. And I know this isn't very technical, but the vibes are awesome. And you just see an uplifted team, which I think is huge because you saw how down the team was at 1-7. Obviously, we did great to pull it back after being down 1-7, but chemistry and morale being low is definitely a issue. And you even see Christian Wilkins talking about in press conferences when there's days when people don't have it, and the heat or whatever it is, when the morale is low. Christian Wilkins talks about how he wants to be a guy to elevate the team because elevating players' morale is such a big thing, and elevating their chemistry and elevating their confidence. That's a huge part of being a good football team. So I'm very excited to see how this Mike McDaniel team will do. And honestly, like I told my dad, like I said, he was skeptical. I was like, you got to get on board because at this point, again, it's kind of the cycle of being a Dolphins fan. You get hyped up at the start of the season, then you're disappointed. But to be honest, that's all part of being a fan, and I love it. We're psychos. We love it. You want to get on the train. So I said, get on the train. Let's be happy for now. We're 0-0. No team's played a game yet. Let's get excited for the season, and hopefully this is the year. And Mike McDaniel talks about how they have an opportunity to do something and take over the city. Obviously, I'm not down there, which I wish I was, and hopefully I'll be down there for a couple of games. We'll see what happens, but they have a real opportunity to take over the city and take over like football in Miami. Like everyone talks about how social
media,
media
thing down here. The Heat are great, but nothing compares. Nothing compares to the Miami Dolphins. John Ruiz said, no more excuses. 100%. If Tua's not good this year, he's gone, and I'm on board with getting rid of him if he's no good. But ace of spades. So you said, are we going to hold his hand to cross the street as well? I'm not saying hold his hand or coddle him, but give him the basics. I don't know what job you work, but let's say you're a salesman, right? You come in, and I just give you a bunch of leads from 2006. They're all beat down. You're not going to succeed. You're not going to succeed. I'm not even giving you the basics. I'm not giving you any support. You ask your manager for sales help. He says, get out of my office. Go figure it out. And you're just like, do they really want me here? Do they want me to succeed? I feel like you have to give him the basics. You know, a coach that's willingly to go out there and be like, hey, like, I believe in you to go do your job. Or how about we give you an offensive line where your starting tackle is not Jesse Davis and allow 236 pressures in 1 year? I'm not one to just sit here and make excuses. Like, there's things that Tua obviously has to work on, but I don't think we could just ignore the fact that the offensive line that we had last year was one of the worst offensive lines of all time. It's not even debatable. It was horrendous. It was horrific. Devontae Parker never played. I love Mac Hollins for the locker room, but he's not a wide receiver too. I'm sorry. He's just not. We had guys like Isaiah Ford catching passes. No disrespect to Duke Johnson. I love Duke Johnson. He's born and raised in Miami, but he's not an RB1. I'm sure he'll make some plays on a couple other teams, but you got to give the kid a little bit, and that is why this year is make or break. So we should not be holding his hands, but we got to give him the basics. But now let's get into game day, Jay. Let's get into game day.
Yes,
let's just start off with the heat. Let's just start off with the smoke. We call it the smoke show. Let's let it get smoky in here. So it's a meaningless game, right? It's the preseason, but Tua says he wants to play. Now, me as a fan, I want to see the starters go out there because when I sit my ass down on the couch Saturday night and I pour up a cup of Jack Daniels and it's just sitting on the rocks, it's nice and cold, and I see the boys warming up, I'm going to say I want them to play. However, unfortunately, I went back and watched our last preseason game 4 times. And what stuck out to me the most was Coleman. He is egregious. I don't believe he should be on an NFL roster. I can't believe he's going to make the team. And truthfully, I cannot believe he is going to be the left tackle that comes into the game if Terron Armstead were to get hurt. Now, I watch him play, and I shit my pants for any quarterback back there. Do you feel comfortable sending out Tua Tagovailoa with Coleman as his starting left tackle?
This is a fantastic question because obviously I talk with my boys. I have a close friend who's a Miami Dolphins fan, and we were talking about it. If Terron Armstead isn't out there to play left tackle, do not send Tua out there. I'm not comfortable sending Tua out there with Larnell Coleman playing at left tackle. Not at all. I'm not. I'm just not. There is no scenario where Tua Tagovailoa should be on the field and Terron Armstead should not be, because, like you said, Larnell Coleman is god awful. Listen, he can turn around. Who cares? Turn it around in front of Teddy Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson, because we're not taking a chance in front of Tua Tagovailoa. It was QB1 by pretty much a long shot. Let's be honest here, at least from everything that we've heard. Like, it's pretty clear he's the QB1, and we honestly thought Teddy Bridgewater might be one of the best backups in football, but it's been pretty clear that there's a huge difference even between them. So if Teron Armstead isn't out there, which I'm pretty sure we're all pretty confident that he won't be, it just kind of feels like Teron Armstead probably won't play, then I wouldn't send Tua Tagovailoa out there. If Teron Armstead's on the game and you have Larnell Coleman out there blocking for him, I'm pissed. I'll stop the stream. There will be some things shown. I'll get demonetized, basically. I'll lose the channel, is what I'm saying, is what's going to happen, which I've worked very hard on, and I'm not excited to do it. But if I see Tua Tagovailoa take a hit from the left side of the offensive line and it's Larnell Coleman, stuff is getting thrown. Things are being said. I don't want to talk about it, man. It's horrible. Clearly, like you said, Larnell Coleman's, he's ass. Let's just say it. He's ass.
Terrible.
And I do not want to see Tua Tagovailoa dodging shit in the preseason. Who cares? It's a preseason. Right. And that's especially Teron Armstead. If you want to play, go convince Teron Armstead to play. That's right. How you get on the field.
Right. And here's my thing with that. So me and Bobby, we were talking about it the other day. And I said, look, there's probably going to be a point in the regular season where Larnell Coleman is going to be the starting left tackle. But when it's the regular season, all bets are off. I don't care if Helen Keller or Fat Albert, I don't care who's playing the offensive line. You got to go out there and play. But in a meaningless preseason game, and they got edge rushers over there in Vegas. Crosby's an absolute animal. I don't know if he'll play or not, but if he's playing and he's one-on-one with Coleman, you could call the play a sack before we even snap the ball. I'm sorry. But if Armstead is not playing, I don't want to see Tua out there. And to be honest, I don't see Tyreek playing. I know Jalen's been battling back stiffness. I don't see the Dolphins playing a lot of starters here. And I know a lot of people are like, well, we need it, blah, 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 blah. I want to ask you this because, look, say they play one drive, say they play a quarter, say they play a half. Hypothetically, let's say all the starters play, everyone, Armstead, yada, yada, you name them, they're playing, hypothetically.
The ones.
One drive, two drives, a quarter, or a half. Do you think that drive, two drives, quarter, or half is going to affect how we play week 1 for 3 weeks from now?
We talked about this, and if it's like a drive, then no. I know there is something to be said, and obviously I watch the show, love the show, even when I'm not on. So clearly, I heard you and Bobby talking about, taking a hit, things like that, getting used to the flow of the game, and being in a real game where you don't have the coach with you, like you're on your own, you're out there, you're on your own. So there is something to be said about that. But if it's a meaningless game and you're just doing one drive or some shit like that, don't do it. There's no point. If you're gonna do it, I would say at least do it for a quarter, at least until Tua says, okay, I'm good to go. Maybe it's just a player's thing. Maybe you say, okay, tell us when you're comfortable, whatever. We want to get you out. But it's going to be one of those things where it's a balance. And again, like I said, I personally think they shouldn't, especially if it's only going to be one drive or something like that, because as much as that drive might do for their confidence or whatever, it's not going to help them in the real season. But man, it's something that you go through in your head so many times. I can't even imagine how it's probably I can't imagine how many times the thought has raced through Mike McDaniel's head of, should I play them? Should I not? Tua's obviously the players, again, we talked about this at large, how they want to play so bad, which is obviously they're NFL players. Why wouldn't they want to play? But it's something where you have to limit them.
They have everything to lose and
nothing to gain. Other than like reps. Sure.
Right. And they've been getting reps all summer. Now, I know it's not the same. It's not game reps. But preseason reps, they really aren't game reps like that. I mean, maybe for the third and fourth stringers where it's all go, go, go. But there's like unwritten rules like don't hit our quarterback and things like that. I mean, you can't compare a preseason game to the regular season game. It's completely different.
You saw how Nick Sirianni was absolutely livid when I forget the linebacker's name, but he leveled Jalen Hurts. By the way, he was walking out of bounds. That was crazy.
Right.
Nick Sirianni was livid. And by the way, that made me such more of a bigger fan of Nick Sirianni because I love to see that. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, it's our quarterback. Like, clearly they're trying to get him some reps. And obviously he was pissed off at the other coach, as he should be. But why take that chance at all? And again, we've seen it with Zach Wilson. We've seen it with Jalen Hurts. Like, there's things where it's like, why take that hit? And like you said, maybe, Tua wants to get hit. He wants to get that feeling out of the way. So maybe they play a quarter. Maybe they play a drive. Again, it might be a player-by-player basis type thing. There's so much that goes into it. Like, honestly, I would love to do, or I would love if anyone would do more, like, research in terms of how important it really is. Because I'll be honest, like, I don't know the exact amount of, maybe you play them a quarter and a half, and that really gets them going. And then that's good enough to get them out. If they're only going to play a drive, though, like, there's really no point. But if they play like a half, you could see that, that helping them, I would say, in terms of getting reps, in terms of getting on a football field and running the plays by themselves is, again, we know how complicated this Mike McDaniel offense is. So if they do get out there, and even if they mess up, which honestly you might hope they mess up so they can practice and get it good for, as Tua says, they want to be more comfortable. Obviously that was a whole thing, which was crazy, but they want to get more comfortable in the offense, which obviously, like you broke down on Twitter, it was, thank God for you, because you said there's clearly some context missing from the clip. But I just think there's something to say, if you're going to play them half, it better be with Tron Armstead out there. But if you're only going to play them for a drive, it's like, how much good can that do?
Right. Now, not last week, on Wednesday, I did talk about how it was important to get hit. It gets all the nervousness and all the rattledness out of the way, but that's only for the game that you're in. Like me getting hit back in my glory days of high school, let's say week 1, I get hit on the first play. Great. That wakes me up. I'm ready to go for that game. But you still need that hit for the next game, and the game after that, and the game after that, and the game after that. You getting hit 3 on tomorrow is not going to change that. Okay, I need to get hit feeling week 1 against the Patriots. So I do think he needs to get hit. Everyone needs to get hit. That's how you're like, all right, bet. Like, let's play some fucking football. But I don't think getting hit 3 weeks before week 1 is going to change anything. And John Ruiz, I love you, by the way, John. He says the ones on offense need to do at least one series this weekend, in my opinion. And I agree with that if it's truly the ones. I don't believe the ones is Coleman, Eric Azukama. No disrespect. I know he's a rookie, but he's not a wide receiver 1. Lynn Bowden, I know he had a great game. He's not a wide receiver 2. If it's not truly the ones, like if we're not sending our true starting 11 out there, then it's not really like we're sending out the ones for a drive or the ones for a half or the ones for a quarter. It's like we're sending out ones and twos. It's not even the first team. And if those guys aren't going to be starting week 1, then are we really getting those reps that we need to go play the Patriots?
And by the way, we know it's not going to be the ones. I kind of concerned me a little bit when Mike McDaniel said, hopefully we'll get Jalen Waddle back for training camp. That was a little bit worrying for me. I don't know if you heard that during his press conference.
Whoa. What?
I don't know if you heard that. He said, hopefully we'll get him back. No, I think it was 2 days ago or yesterday. He said something about hopefully we'll get him back for training camp. It was kind of like to the side, which I think Travis Wingfield brought up on the podcast too, which kind of gave me a little bit of concern, but it seemed like if Waddle needed to play, he could have. They were just kind of holding him out for like, the medical team kind of held him out and saved him from himself. But when he said, and maybe again, it was just a slip up of words, so we're really kind of nitpicking here. But when he said that, it's okay. So he's probably not going to play tomorrow, which means it's not going to be all the ones because Waddle's clearly a 1 on this team, so he's not going to be playing. By the way, sorry, this just got me thinking with some of the ones clearly not playing because again, Waddle's not playing. And I'll be honest, most likely the way they've been load managing Teron Armstead, he might not be playing. Shit, he's barely practicing at this point. So
bro, that scares me, dog.
Yeah, and by the way, Connor Williams, he's the one like center. He better be playing like a lot of this game, man. Especially if the third week, even though we have the 4th preseason bye week now, if they're saying, this is going to be kind of the dress rehearsal, and then next week it's going to be presumably backups as you're trying to narrow it down in terms of which backups are going to make the team. Connor Williams better be getting some reps because the high snaps are still an issue to this point. This isn't OTAs. This isn't the start of training camp. We're deep in now, dude. It's August 20th. We're 11 days away from September, and the high snaps are still an issue. And by the way, I would be saying this regardless, but in this offense, snaps and timing is such a big thing. Again, if you know the San Francisco 49ers offense, you know how much timing is a part of this offense, which obviously you need the snap to be a part of that. So it's an even bigger deal with this. And obviously I know we don't have the best centers behind him, but still, Connor Williams better get that shit down or else that will be another hole in this offensive line when, even though we're all hopeful that Austin Jackson get the right tackle position, we know Eichenberg's a question mark at left guard. Austin Jackson, let's be honest, as much as he's giving me confidence, he's still a question mark at this point. Listen, if he does in the regular season, I'll take away the question mark, but at this point, it's a question mark. Robert Hunt's not a question mark, and then Teron Armstead isn't a question mark, but he is in terms of injury. So Connor Williams, you better get those snaps down. We know what he can do as a blocker. I don't have concerns with him as a blocker, but there's things with center that you don't just have to block as left guard. You have to communicate with the offensive line and the quarterback, and you have to snap the ball. And the fact that there's still 4 to 5, by the way, it's not even lowering the numbers. It's not like, oh, today was only one bad one, so improvement. It's always 4 or 5, 3 or 4. Horrible or not horrible, but high snaps, which they're even saying Tua's getting mad at him. And by the way, Tua does not get mad at anybody. We saw him once last year talk to the receivers about running routes, but that was even like a teaching. It wasn't even him being mad. So if you see Tua being frustrated with snaps, like that means something. So I think Connor Williams better be getting some game reps because the offensive line is so important. And I don't need to see Tua get rocked because he's jumping up in the air to get a ball from the center.
Well, if the snaps are high in practice, they're only going to get higher in the game with the adrenaline running through your body, blitzers lined up in the A gap. Now you're really communicating real game speed, game time, clock is ticking. The pressure's only going to get worse, brother. And if you're not getting the snaps right in practice, you're definitely not going to get them right in the games because just like me and you, we're basic people, right? I don't know if you play any particular sports, but if you go out there, say basketball, right, and you're out there shooting jump shots and you're 3 for 20 and you can't hit the side of you can't make a jump shot, you can't fucking hit it all practice. You go out there in a game, in the back of your mind, you're like, bro, I can't hit this jump shot. Like I just shot 3 for 20. Like, there's no way I'm going to make this. I haven't hit it in practice. Why am I going to do it in the game? Now, if you're Connor Williams and you've had 5 to 6 high snaps every single day in practice, deep down, it's already buried in your subconscious that I'm going to have a high snap because it's obviously a problem. It's been confronted. And if it's not fixed right now in the preseason, it's going to be a serious problem come week 1. And by that point, if it's not solved by then, I think you have to go Dieter, or even though I know you don't want Treader, I'm not that big on him either. At least the motherfucker could snap the ball.
Any center. Matt Paradis is still out there. There's some other guys out there, but even Dieter, I would rather have out there at this point. I mean, I'm not the biggest Eichenberg guy at this point. I just don't think he fits the offense. But to me, by the way, it was a travesty that Connor Williams wasn't out there last week. I don't know why he wasn't out there getting reps in last week with Skylar Thompson against against the Buccaneers. That made no sense to me, and I think we talked about it too. It's like I don't know why he wasn't out there. That was ridiculous. But especially again, if he's not going to be out there next week, if he's not out there this week, then we have a problem. Especially again, like you said. You were talking about how in game situations where it's going to get worse, there's going to be more high snaps. And like, again, your basketball analogy is good because you're not hitting wide open jump shots. So what's going to happen when they're contested? So now's the time. If you're going to get reps in, especially if you want game reps that aren't actually in regular season game, the only time is now. And again, with that fourth preseason week being gone, tomorrow is the time to get those reps in. There's no other time. Even the third week, you can probably get them in for a quarter maybe. But again, that's going to be where you really want to find the guys because that's when you're really getting into the nitty-gritty of cutting your roster down to 53. And obviously the ones are safe. So you're really trying to get the most out of the backups and the third and fourth stringers to see who you want to make the team and who you want to make the practice squad. So tomorrow is the time. Tomorrow's the time for you to get some reps in. Tomorrow's the time for you to show that you've improved at least. And again, we've seen that Tua and him are practicing snaps out of practice, which is something I love to see, obviously. But clearly there needs to be some more improvement at that front. And again, for an offensive line that's been as putrid as it has been, it's really frustrating that there hasn't been more of a positive in terms of camp and reports and all that type of stuff so far.
As I said, I watched that preseason game probably 4 or 5 times. Coleman was bad, but Liam Eichenberg, he's not that much better. And to be quite honest with you, I would much rather go out there with the starting 5 of Armstead, Connor Williams, Dieter, Hunt, AJ. I would be more comfortable with Williams playing guard. That's what he's played. That's what he played in Dallas. He was good for Dallas. He had a lot of holding penalties, but I think that could be fixed with coaching and technique and things like that. But all in all, he was a very good guard for the Dallas Cowboys. He started at guard for the Dallas Cowboys. So for us to move him to center on this trial and experiment thing, maybe we did it out of desperation with the Dieter injury, but I don't even think it was desperation. I think the day we signed him, that was kind of the idea is let's move him to center. I think we're better off with just keeping him at guard and having Dieter play center. I'm much more comfortable with Armstead, Williams, Dieter, Hunt, and AJ than I am with Armstead, Liam, Connors at center, who, like we just talked about for 5 minutes, still can't get the snap right, Robert Hunt and AJ. Do you agree?
I agree with you, and I will say, and obviously we're not smarter than Mike McDaniel. We'll get that out of the way.
Right.
He does have familiarity of moving guards to center. I don't have these specific players or scenarios where that happened, but he did say it, so I know it's obviously true. But the thing I will say, which I agree with you, is if you put Connor Williams on the left side, with him and Teron Armstead, first of all, you have a top 10 left side in terms of just run blocking, that's for sure. And
Right.
then in terms of pass blocking, that's still pretty goddamn good. Basically, you have a top 10 left side in terms of your offensive line, which is huge. That gives you a strong side. And then honestly, you see Robert Hunt, which gives you a little bit on the right side. And Michael Dieter can at least snap the ball, like you said. And then the
Right.
thing with Connor Williams that I really wanted to hit, just because I did do some deep research on the offensive line when I made that video. The the thing with this penalties is that he had more penalties last year than he did in the rest of the year, the rest of his years of his career combined. So if
So
he
it's an
just goes,
outlier.
yeah, it's an outlier for sure. So if he just
Okay.
regresses back to the mean in terms of penalties from last year, and he still does the same thing in terms of blocking, he'll be an All Pro guard. He'll be a Pro Bowl All Pro type guard because he only allowed one sack at the guard position. He obviously played like most of the season, he had over 1,000 snaps or something close to that. Basically, the only thing was the penalties, which was a big issue. Which, by the way, like you said, can be easily fixed with coaching. That's what penalties is. It's coaching. So if those can get fixed, and obviously, again, it's not like he's a guy who's known for having a lot of penalties. It's an outlier last year. Obviously, it's the most recent year, so that's a little bit troubling. But if he can regress back to the mean in terms of penalties and keep up his production in terms of a pass and run blocker, you have a guy who is honestly at this point probably better than Robert Hunt, and we all know how good Robert Hunt is. So if you move him back to left guard, you have a great left side, and then you have Robert Hunt, which leaves you with Michael Dieter as a whole in the center. We have more confidence in AJ than we ever had. So that gives you one hole up the middle, which to me is a little bit more comfortable. And again, who knows if they sign somebody when someone gets cut or something like that. So we'll see with
Right.
that. But I do agree with you in terms of I'm more comfortable with Dieter, Connor Williams, Armstead, and then Hunt and AJ. But then obviously we'll see how Mike McDaniel does. And honestly, who knows? Maybe Mike McDaniel really gets down the snapping. And I think it is very important if you go back into the 49ers and the Falcons offense when Mike McDaniel is there, it's very important to have a good center. So that's why I think they're actually trying to make the move because it's very important in this offense to have a good center and have a center that can move and all that type of stuff. And that's probably why they signed him and are trying to make that move. So obviously, if he could make the move, that would be better. But at this point in time, I agree with you. So we'll kind of see what happens there. I trust Mike McDaniel, so we'll have to see where it goes. That's kind of that's probably the one thing where I've been like, I don't 100% agree. I don't 100% agree with him completely there. But to be honest, with all the other moves he's made, I've agreed. So it's like,
Right.
who am I to say like this is the wrong thing? Obviously, again, he needs to play tomorrow, man. He needs to play.
I agree. And I think McDaniel's comfortable with what he's seeing thus far because Trill went down the next day we signed a cornerback. We haven't signed anyone else on this offensive line besides Connor Williams and Teron Armstead. Those are two big signings, obviously. But I'm just saying, at this point, if McDaniel was truly petrified or worried about his offensive line, which I think Coleman, like I would already be signing any schmojo possible off the block instead of him. But at least from the center position, I think he's comfortable with his options. And I believe if it doesn't work out with Connor, we will see that Dieter Connor switch. But John Ruiz brought up a great point, and this is something that bothered me last game. Now, the schemes were great. The play action was phenomenal. But I thought the run game was pretty bad. Aside from that Myles Gaskin run, which, by the way, the Tampa Bay linebackers on that play, I don't know what they were smoking, but they weren't even close to making a play on that. I was not impressed with the run game at all. The schemes might have been great. They might have been cute. I really believe the run game needs to step up this week. But at the same time, and I hate making excuses, but it's like how should I evaluate what I'm seeing in the run game when I see guys like Coleman or Keon Smith or Greg Little, and I see guys like this blocking?
Okay, so you're right because you don't have your two best run blockers in Teron Armstead and Connor Williams. That's the first thing. Second of all, you don't have Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert, who are your number one and number two guys in the depth chart, as we're predicting. That is what we're
Right.
predicting in terms of the ones, especially with the guys who weren't playing last week. You kind of saw who they think their ones are. So it's pretty safe to say that Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert are your 1 and 2 running backs heading into this year. But again, Mike McDaniel offense, who knows what he'll sign a guy off the street and he'll be the leading back. So we'll see with that. But
Right.
you are right to say it's not much just because, again, you have your backups in, especially your backup offensive linemen. You see the scheme where the Myles Gaskin run. You see how the way they blocked on that thing. It looked beautiful. Obviously, the linebackers were smoking crack on that play, but it looked good in terms of the offensive line blocking. But you're right. The offensive line or the running game does need to wake up because I said it. I think it was obviously you don't expect huge things when your backups are in, but I still expected better, at least with Mike McDaniel at the helm, especially
Right.
in the run, especially in the red zone. It really got stuffed up in there.
You
And
can't
to be
have
honest,
45 yards over 4 quarters.
oh no, and by the way, 25 of those yards is Skylar Thompson.
On a scramble. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It
20.
was the Myles Gaskin run, the Skylar Thompson scramble. Those were our running yards for the whole game. Those
Dude,
two plays.
if you take away the 20-yard run from Myles Gaskin, the longest run that a Miami Dolphins running back had was 3 yards. And I think the averages for I don't remember the average for each player, but I remember these are the averages. One of them averaged -5 yards. I believe it was Zaquandre White on the -5 yard play. He only had one play where it was -5 yards. Salvin Ahmed had like 2 rushes for no yards. And then the other, I think it was Sony Michel had like a couple rushes for -4 yards. So it was -2 yards per rush. Basically, no
Right.
running back averaged more than I think it was 3 yards or 2 yards per rush, other than Myles Gaskin, which 20 of his 27 yards came on one rush. Which, by the way, again, like we said, the linebackers are smoking crack on that play. Like he made a nice move to the outside, but like someone probably should have hauled him down a little bit before that. So the fact that other than one run, we only had one play, or sorry, we had no plays longer than 3 yards after that. I think it's ridiculous. I think that's something we need to see. Speaking of that,
Right.
like I mentioned, the red zone offense kind of concerned me a little bit. I do think Mike McDaniel would be stupid to put stuff on tape,
Oh,
at
bro,
least
we
this
got to talk
early.
about that. We got to talk about that. That's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up. So that was, I loved everything that McDaniel was calling on our own side of the ball, like our own side of the
In the
field,
open field,
midfield.
yeah.
I loved everything until the 10-yard line, and I started getting PTSD. It's like 1st and 10, handoff, no yards. 2nd and 10, handoff, no yards. 3rd and goal from the 10, fade route, no good. I was not impressed at all with the goal line play calling, and I think a big factor of that is when you have the starting 5 in, I believe he's going to get at least 3 to 4, 4 to 5 yards on that first handoff. Maybe we could get some jet sweeps, some pre-snap motions, and we might be able to score. But I was not a fan of the play calling at all. I don't know if it's McDaniel trying to be conservative and not expose what he's going to try to do inside the 10-yard line, because that's prime time, bro. If you can't score in the red zone, you are not going to win football games. So do you think he was trying to be conservative, or are we just not feeling the McDaniel play calling inside the 10-yard line so far?
I actually do think he's trying to be conservative. I'm actually going to give him the benefit of the doubt here. When you watch the plays, I think it is you have a bunch of backups out there. You don't have your number ones in. And then it's not like you're trying to put crazy stuff on tape. I'll be honest, the whole game, it's crazy because I actually thought the game plan was very vanilla for the entire game, not just in the red zone. And he was still putting great stuff on tape in terms of having guys like Trent Sherfield wide open. I literally said in my videos where as you know, I don't really get too like excited in those videos. I literally said he had guys booty butt naked. He had guys wide open. He had guys naked 30 yards down the field, which is something you don't see in the NFL. And he was doing that with backups with like a more vanilla type game plan. So it was very interesting that you see a couple reverse sweeps, a couple fake sweeps, a couple fake tosses, which was interesting. But that's kind of the extent of not being a vanilla offense. So I think he was very vanilla in terms of the entire game. Obviously, that continued in the red zone. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he wants to put stuff on tape. I think he's very creative in that sense. Like, let's be honest. Who's drawing up a fade play to 5'8" Lynn Bowden? Like you have
Yeah,
to
that
know.
was crazy. But that's what pissed me off, because
Exactly.
I had money on that game, and it's like, why are we throwing a fade route to Lynn Bowden right now? Like, you're trying to kill me, coach. And then I went back and I watched the tape. I think I've said that like 3 or 4 times already. But when I tell you Liam Eichenberg is getting pushed 5 to 10 yards back off the snap count on these run plays, I mean, it was egregious. And what were they? Yeah, they were one high with 10 in the box. That Dolphins realtor, 100%. Tampa absolutely loaded the box. There's no doubt about that. And I think their backups are a lot more talented than our backups. And I believe in this run scheme, you have to be very athletic. You have to be very skilled. You have to be very talented. And if you're a backup lineman for the if you're a backup offensive lineman for the Miami Dolphins, odds are you don't have those skills. You don't have those skills to be successful in this running scheme. And therefore, we're not going to be able to run the football effectively. But from a play calling perspective, I'm not a fan of handoff on 1st and 10 from the goal and 2nd and 10 from the goal. If you get stuffed 1st and 10, I think you got to spice it up. You got to do something. Now, Mike McDaniel knows much more than me. His football IQ is way higher than mine. But I think deep down at the end of the day, he knows, okay, maybe I shouldn't call back-to-back run plays with this offensive line from the 10-yard line.
And it's definitely something he's learning from. Like he said, he had a C- performance, which is what he expected. And to be
He
fair,
said
that
that?
is true. Yes, in his post game, or I think it was the day after the game press conference when there wasn't
Damn,
practice, but he
I gotta
came
check
in.
that out.
He said it was a C minus kind of, and that's what he expected though. He said I expected a C minus performance, and I got that. And let's be honest, like that, it's his first it's his debut as a head coach, which I think is
Right.
something that is definitely nerve wracking. Like imagine going and, by the way, calling plays for the first time. As much as I believe in him as a play caller, it is his first time, so he probably
Right.
is getting the jitters out. And by the way, he probably does feel more comfortable as a run game coordinator to go to the run, at least at this point, especially with a rookie quarterback. Even though Skylar balled out, man, but
I thought he had a great game.
there's definitely something to be said about like he doesn't want to put stuff on tape. He clearly like I think we all know Mike McDaniel knows more than throwing it like a fatal and Bowden. Like I think if we know, he knows, right? So I think there's something to be said about him kind of just testing the waters with stuff. It's the preseason. I don't expect him to bring out the big guns. I think week one, Pats, we'll see him bring out the big stuff. We'll put up points, man. I'm excited for that game. I need Xavier to bring back the nuts, baby. Bring out the nuts. I need to see that on Mac Jones. But yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see what we do. And again, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here. I didn't give him the benefit of the doubt with the run game. I thought I was pretty disappointed in that. But in terms of red zone offense, I feel more comfortable that he's not putting good stuff on tape. If that continues in the regular season, we'll have to revisit the conversation for sure. But like, there's no way a guy who studies film as much as him is doing those types of plays where you run two plays to the right side, which is probably the weaker part of your line at that point, like two plays in a row, and then you're throwing a fade. So I think you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's some rookie head coach jitters in there. But other than that, I think it was a very fun game. And you see what he can do in the open field, man. In the open field, it's wild
Unreal.
how he's getting people
Unreal.
open. So I'm really not worried about it. It was a very fun game, and I'm very excited for tomorrow's game, which should be incredible. We'll see. Maybe we won't see all the ones, but he did say again in a press conference that you will see players who didn't play last game who will play today or tomorrow. Sorry. So we definitely will see some new players playing, which should be very, very exciting. But yeah, I'll leave it with this. Connor Williams has to play, and if Tua Tagovailoa sees the field, if Tron Armstead isn't on the field, things are being done. That's all I'm saying. I'm going to leave it at that because I'm not happy about it.
If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're at like 520. We're trying to hit 1,000.
500. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we broke 500. So shout out everyone. Thank you guys for the love. We're trying to hit 1,000. If you haven't hit the like button already, please make sure to go ahead and do that. I want to talk about this upcoming game a little bit more. So we spent a lot of time talking about, okay, should Tua play? Should Teron Armstead play? But we haven't really talked too much about the defense. Now, a guy like Xavier Howard, I don't think he should play. A guy like Javon Holland, now he's only in his second year, but he's out there looking like an all-pro. Do I want him out there playing?
Elite.
Probably not. Probably not. I don't know if Jalen Phillips played last week. I don't think he did.
Yeah, he played for the first.
Like
he played for like the first two series. Yeah, he only had two pass rushing reps. If that's what you're looking for,
right? So I mean, I could see him going out there. I don't have the exact snap count of all the defensive starters, but that leads me to ask you: do you think we're going to see guys like Javon Holland playing? Xavier Howard, obviously not Byron Jones because he's hurt, but Brandon Jones, who by the way, he had a terrible tackle in the first quarter, like took out three of our guys on like a 2nd and 12 or something. But do you think we're going to see more defensive starters than we did last week?
I would assume so. I don't think we see Xavier Howard. That just doesn't really make any sense with him. Javon Holland, maybe. I would say probably not. The only thing, and I'm saying like there's a very, very low chance he plays. He is wearing the green dot now, so I do think that will play a part. He's sharing those duties with Jerome Baker, so I think he probably wants to get comfortable with that. So maybe that's the reason he plays. But other than that, I don't think he will play. Brandon Jones will play. He played last week, so there's no reason he wouldn't play this week. He's still developing as a coverage guy. He usually is better at tackling, as we know, but obviously he did have that one bad play. I think we go on the linebackers. Jerome Baker played. Landon Roberts didn't. Jerome Baker and Landon Roberts didn't play, but I think you still see Duke Riley and Sam Eguavoen playing. Going down the line, maybe Wilkins and Steeler get a couple snaps there if they want to. It's so interesting, man, because Mike McDaniel's been so close to the vest, as he should be, by the way. I don't think he shouldn't be. So, well, we're kind of at his mercy in terms of who's going to play and who's not to. It's very hard to predict that this early. I know we're only a day away, but that's just kind of how it is with the football and regular season too. Like even with injuries, we barely know anything about that. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll see guys who we didn't see last week just because that's what he said. And he hasn't made a habit of lying to the media, at least of yet. So I think we'll definitely see some new ones in there, some new starters in there, probably some guys who didn't play last week. But yeah, it's going to be very exciting. I wish I could give you a more concrete answer, but I'm literally picking at straws, man. I
Right.
couldn't tell
I
you.
100% agree. 100% agree with you. I think we're going to have to see more of our secondary play. Obviously, not Xavier Howard, but obviously Keon Crossan would play. I'd like to see Nick Needham play a little bit as a primary outside guy, just in case Byron Jones can't make it to week 1. I'd like to see him get some live reps one-on-one with a possible wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. I mean, I don't know if Devontae Adams is going to play, but I could see Hunter Renfrow playing if they go out there with their ones and things like that. But I'm excited and also very terrified to see this secondary go out there after we get through the quote unquote ones. I mean, we're talking about Mackenzie Alexander. No disrespect to him, I've never seen him play, but we just signed him last week, and I know everyone saw that play where Blaine Gabbert could have threw it to any single Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver down the field on that touchdown. And I can't even fully put that on Noah, although it's very easy to say, haha, Noah, you're trash. And I'm not saying that he's not, but that play, the whole defense was lost. So are
Brandon
you
Jones was lost, by the way, and Nick Needham was lost on that play as well, just so you
all
know.
lost? They were all
Yeah.
lost. That's what I said in my video. They should take that play and just throw it out or just go back and figure it the fuck out because everyone was lost. Are you more excited or terrified to see this 2s and 3s of the secondary come in a meaningful game? If I see any of these guys come in, I'm terrified, but I'm kind of excited to see, you know what, maybe they could turn it around. Maybe Noah will go out
Hey,
there
don't be
and
on the
he'll get
line.
that interception that'll, give him some confidence as cornerback 4.
Nick, you're not usually a guy who's kind of in the middle, plays the middle, but you can be excited. I'm excited too. I want to see what Mackenzie Alexander can do. I want to see what Noah Benagi can do. Obviously, I'm sure he knows he had a poor game last week. I'm excited to see how he'll play. Obviously, going into a new fresh game, you have to say, okay, let's be excited for them. And again, you're not a guy who likes to kind of be in the middle. You like to have solid takes. So yeah, be excited. Don't be afraid to say, I'm excited to see our players play. I'm always excited to see the Dolphins play. I don't care who's back there. I don't care who's wearing the
Right.
jersey. We're all psychos. If you're watching this, like a 52-minute stream, like
Yeah,
about a
you're a
preseason
lunatic.
game, like you're a lunatic. So we're all lunatics
You're
here.
a
Let's
real
be
one.
honest. We're all weirdos. I know we're all scared of that word. We're weird. We're weirdos out here. So again, I'm very excited to see all the guys play. I'm excited to see Mackenzie Alexander. Obviously, we just signed him off the street, so we'll see how he does. And yeah, I'm excited to see how Noah kind of responds to that game. As we all saw Mike McDaniel kind of comment on how he wants him to play more free and have a short memory as a cornerback and learn from the guys who do. Xavier Howard is a top 2 corner in football, and he gets beat sometimes. He has a short memory, and he gets right back to it, and then he intercepts the ball. So I think Mike McDaniel talked about how he doesn't want to see Noah Benogany kind of get burnt, and then after that, playoff coverage. Like, no, be aggressive. Always be you, because he does have the physical trait. So I'm always excited to see you guys play. Am I nervously anxious about his talent and his skill? Sure. But whenever a Dolphins player throws on the jersey, I'm always excited to see them play. So I'm excited to see him try and bounce back at least.
Yep. I think they will. I think the defense needs a bounce back game too, because we looked good the first drive, the second drive.
Once Duke Riley left, man, the tackling went to shit.
Horrendous. Like Sam, if he didn't pick up that touchdown, I was ready to kill him. On what was it, like 2nd and 18? They hit that guy on the check down, and bro, he had the green light to take his head off and just completely missed. And you cannot miss that tackle as an NFL middle linebacker. Unbelievable. But I think the tackling will be better. I mean, the first preseason game, it's their first time really going full contact unless you're playing for the Lions. And I think we kind of proved Dan Campbell's madness. If you watch Hard Knocks, those guys are going full contact. It looks like a high school football practice. Oklahoma drills, one-on-ones, lighting each other up, full contact to the ground. And I kind of see the method to his madness, because those boys came out there. They were ready to hit. They were already tackling, whereas I feel like we missed so many tackles early in that preseason game. But I just think, it's professionals. Obviously, they've been tackling for 10, 12, 15 years now. I don't think the tackling's concerning at this point. I definitely will be watching for it, but I do expect it to improve. I'd like to see the defense make a statement, though. I don't want to see 24 points, possibly 27, if Mike McDaniel doesn't call that timeout there. Do you think we need a solid defensive showing at least for the first half or the full game? Is that gonna have any weight for you and your expectations for this defense going into week 1?
I'll be very honest with you. No, and I'll tell you why. Because our defense relies upon having good press man corners, which I'll be honest, in the entire NFL, it's a very rare case when you have a player who's not that great, who is good in press man. So you have to have the elite of the elite, which is why we're paying Byron Jones and Xavier Howard big money. So it's hard to play what we want to play, that zero blitz style, that blitz heavy, that man-to-man press without those guys on the field. So you have to play more vanilla style. You have to play more zone. You have to play more off coverage, which obviously is a must. So in that case, I still think we'll struggle a little bit just because that's not what our defense is built on. We're kind of having to do stuff that's a little bit different. I think we definitely ran a little bit more blitz heavy once the game got close near the end of the game. You saw all the UDFA rookies kind of defensive line combining for a sack, which is really cool to see. So you saw more of that zero blitz kind of at the end of the game when it mattered. But during the course of the game, there's a lot more vanilla stuff. You're just dropping back into Tampa 2, into cover 3, whatever normal kind of stuff you see in man-to-man. So we'll kind of see that. So I'll be very honest with you. I just don't think we're going to see like some crazy stuff from our defense. I do think it's a point where we definitely need to have a better showing than we did last week. That's for sure, because it was very poor last week. The tackling, like you said, it was like their first time tackling, but even like you said with the Lions, like they're out there tackling. They're at a different kind of stage in their development. They're more of a rebuilding team, so they're kind of practice to develop, not to win in terms of right now. But I definitely think that with another game, obviously having a game under your belt of already tackling, I think it's important to improve on that stuff. But if I'm going to say we're going to see some impressive performance, I don't think it's very rare you see that in a preseason game, to be honest with you.
Right. I agree with that.
I expect improvements though, for sure, because it was tough last week. It was tough.
I agree. Captain Cold says, do y'all think this defense will be boom or bust like it was in the Flores era? To be honest with you, I'm not decided on this defense because I really don't know if it was Flores or not. I really have no clue, and I don't think anyone really does. I think Boyer played a role in this defense, but whoever was calling plays for the first 5 weeks, I mean, they were horrendous. I mean, that defense, that was supposed to be our backbone, and they were out there just getting straight cooked, bro. They were getting absolutely cooked. But I don't know, man. I really don't know. I'm going to say boom because of optimism, and they haven't proven to me yet that they're bust, and I've only been seeing good things from guys like Javon Holland, Jalen Phillips, the cornerstone guys. So I'm going to say boom until I see that it's bust, because our defense looked great the whole second half of the year, but they also went up against Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson, Cam Newton, Ian Book, absolute scrub. I mean, we went up against some absolute skis balls, and of course we're going to look good. So I don't know. I'd like to see how it goes this year, but like I said, until I see bust, I'm going to go with boom.
I would love to know too, because in 2020, obviously we know our defense was dominant. A lot of that had to do with Xavier Howard being a defense player of the year. I can't believe he got snubbed of that award. That was ludicrous, but he had a great year. And we don't know who was calling plays in 2020, whether it was Brian Flores or Josh Boyer. And then last year, there was even rumors of the safeties coach, Gerald Alexander, who I think was an awesome coach. If you know, like, he was an awesome safeties coach, which is unfortunate to lose. Obviously, when you replace him with Sam Madison and Patrick Surtain, it's kind of that lessens the loss of him, because I think a lot of people who are in the kind of that coaching realm, they do think of Gerald Alexander as a guy who could be a future defensive coordinator. But the thing is, we don't know who was coaching in 2020. We're all assuming it was Flores and Boyer, a combination of the two, or maybe it was just Flores. Who knows? And we don't know who is at the start of the year, which, by the way, if you notice, at the start of the year, we're running so much off coverage. We're running so much more zone, which was so weird. Yes. It's like, dude, we have Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, and it's 3rd and 3. Why are you playing off coverage? It's
Jalen's
so
dropping
stupid.
back into coverage. It was terrible.
It was awful. It was awful. I don't know why that was. And then, by the way, there was clearly a change. Obviously, the team's got a little bit worse. But there was clearly a change in scheme and a play style.
Ravens game. The defense just completely changed that night.
We need to know whether that was Boyer, Joe Alexander, Flores, what combination was. I would love to be a fly on the wall and know who that was, and that would give me more confidence. Dude, we are all praying that is Josh Boyer. Like, we're praying that was Josh Boyer. And honestly, as much as, like, maybe it was Flores, I'm hoping that, let's say it was Flores, right? Hopefully, as a guy who, Josh Boyer, who has been under Flores for so long, he was with him in New England for God knows how long, for a long-ass time, and obviously with him with these 3 years here. Hopefully, he takes what he learned from Flores and he does relatively the same thing. Obviously, you expect him to add his own little wrinkles into it, because now he gets to actually call the plays if that's the case. So obviously, you expect a couple things to change, but I would love to see him kind of keep that press man, blitz heavy. You know, you have quick linebackers with Tyndall and Baker. So hopefully we see that offense go back to what it was in the second half of last year, and obviously in the entirety of 2020, which, by the way, that was an awesome year to watch. So hopefully we see that. But honestly, we'll get our answer, man. We'll be able to see week one. Week one will be able to tell who that defensive coordinator was, who was actually calling those plays in the play style. So we'll see kind of what happens there.
All right. Well, we hit that hour mark, which means it's almost our time to get out of here. But before we do that, if you haven't liked or subscribed, you need to do so. And how would this be a preseason preview if we didn't give you a score prediction? I got the Miami Dolphins winning, of course, 31-20. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think our secondary is going to get torched. I think their secondary is going to get torched. I see this game being high-scoring. I'm taking the Fins 31-20.
I'll be very similar. I'm gonna go 28-17.
I like it.
With the Raiders, I'm gonna go 28-17. Obviously, the Dolphins. Clearly, I want Mike McDaniel to be 2-0, baby, 2-0. Man, by the way, I know I've said it so many times now, but man, him icing that kicker in his first game, like, that was fucking awesome. Clutch, baby, clutch gene. He's got that clutch gene in him. Ice McDaniel, baby, ice. But yeah, 28-17.
Well, if you're out here at an hour and 1 minute for our preseason preview, I love you to death. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you guys for blowing up this chat. It's been unbelievable. Thank you guys. If you subscribed, if you liked the video, it means the absolute world to me. If you haven't checked out Jay's channel, you need to check him out. He's unbelievable. He's absolutely killing the game. He's a wizard on the camera, behind the scenes. He does it all. If you haven't already, check out his channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you on Monday right here on The Smoke Show at 5 p.m. Fins up.